I think agencies in the past, when you go back to Mad Men, were real partners for businesses. I think over the last few years, the proliferation of all the things we can do with agencies and the way that the big groups have reacted to that has slightly eroded the trust between the client and the agency ecosystem in such a way that we've moved from being partners to being customer and supplier. We need the agencies to get back to being business partners, trusted, worthy business partners who bring for us three real things that we can't really get elsewhere. Number one, the external perspective. We're very focused on our companies and our brands, and we need them to bring the world to us. Secondly, a real consumer-first mentality, to be able to tell us the truth from what they see, not only from what the consumers are saying, but from what the consumers are not saying as well. And then the third and the most important thing is creativity. I feel that with the advent of technology, one of the things that we've done as the agency ecosystem has chased after the new possibilities is we have all, client side and agency side, have slightly forgotten the real power of a great creative idea brought to life in a magnificent story that really changes people's behaviors and beliefs. We've heard a lot of talk about people taking a lot of the things that the agencies used to do in-house, and I think that's valid. By the way, it always used to happen. The question is one really of speed and economics, and also the factor of creativity. So can you do things faster? Yes, sometimes. Can you do things cheaper? Yes, sometimes. Can you do things better? That's the real question. Maybe 20% of a company's market cap is perhaps its tangible assets, and the consultancies can charge millions of dollars consulting to us about how to optimize that, and yet 80% of our market cap is our goodwill, our brands, and our kind of consumer endeavor. And pretty obviously, the consultancy world was always going to come into that space. And I think what we really are starting to see is that those businesses need creativity. But also our creativity needs the business acumen of the consultancy. And I think it's good. It's good for us, it's good for the agency ecosystem because they have to step up and differentiate. And increasingly, I suspect it's going to be good for the client. From a personal perspective, would I like to see that power curtailed and broken up? The answer is no. I know a lot of people will say yes, they've got too much power. But I actually think that so long as that power is in the hands of good people, I think the platforms and the people who fund those platforms can be using the power and that scale for good and actually making the world a better place. So if you're looking at a company like Google and what it's been able to do to shape the way people learn or people get informed or the way that people can discover new opportunities, I think it's a massive opportunity for good. I want to see them get bigger, I want to give them more of my money, and I want them ultimately to be running the entire universe. I see them as being the people that maybe the Avengers, the films from the Avengers, are actually people by people from Facebook and Google. A lot of the growth is coming from the little folks, and that's what the big guys need to, and girls need to look out for. But how we mimic what they do and how we learn from what they do. This is a competitive world and it's an open market, and the big brands are not sitting there waiting to get punched on the nose. We're going to look at what they're doing to throw that punch and go, great, well, we're going to try and do that with our scale and see who wins. You could think about, okay, well, what about direct to consumer? Because you big brands can't do that because you can't do it at scale. And it's like, yeah. We're going to wait until it becomes economic, because all of these people who are going direct to consumer are not making the sort of money that our shareholders would expect us to make. But when the economics change and the cost for the last mile is predicted to go down 80% in the next 10 years, well, then we'll start getting into there. But remember, as much as they've learnt from us about what it takes to win a consumer's trust and how it takes to create something that is worthwhile, we're learning from them about how to genuinely add value to the consumer experience by going direct to them, listening to them, and giving them what it is that they want in a way that makes everybody comfortable. And that includes our shareholders, our investors, our employees, our communities, and the people that rely on us for a living. I think this scale versus authenticity thing is it's a wrong question to ask, if you don't mind me saying. I just think is authenticity authentic? Is it, from the Greek autos, meaning yourself? Is it true about yourself? If it's not, people will find out these days. If it is, tell that story. In the early 1880s, when General Mills set up, for instance, one of the mills that we had on the banks of the Mississippi, some of the stuff that gets into the air from flour ignited and it blew the mill up. And the leader of that mill at the time created an orphanage for those children whose parents have been lost in the thing. Now that's a story that's true, it's a story that's always been there. How do you keep that? It's not the same thing that we're going to do today, but how do you keep a care for the consumer and a belief that you have to give back to the community? When we talk about that, and when we talk about our farming practices, and when Coca-Cola talks about its kind of its social kind of schedule, when P&G stands up and talks about diversity and inclusion, if they've always done it, doing it at scale is actually better than the little people, because they can't reach the world that we can reach, and they can't make the change that we can change. But by the way, it's an ecosystem that needs each other. So we've seen people put out messages into the world that you go, okay, well you say that, but you do this. And if you do something that's different than what you say becomes meaningless. As I say, a lot of big companies have a big kind of voice out there in culture and in the world. And us using that voice to try and create a better world for all of us that live in it is a good thing. So purpose-driven marketing, big tick. Self-purpose driven marketing, not so fond of that.